G'day, Starlo here. A while back I made a really popular episode about targeting mullet using bread burley and bread bait and catching those mullet to use as both bait and to eat. A lot of people at the time said, you know what, you can catch those mullet on fly too, and they're absolutely right. I love targeting mullet on fly, and that's what I've come out to do today. I'm going to burley them up with the bread again. I'm going to use a little 7'6" 4-weight outfit, and I'll tell you all about that down in the description below. And I'm running 2 flies. I've got a floating bread fly up here. It's actually a fairly large one, and I don't know that I'm going to catch too many of these mullet on that one. But hanging underneath it, I've got a slow sinking, tiny little white bread fly. I reckon that's going to be the killer. But anyway, let's see how we go. I'll get some burley going, see if we can burley up some mullet and catch them on fly. I'm looking forward to this. I kick off the burley trail by simply breaking up some small pieces of bread and flicking them out into the current. And it doesn't take too long to do its job. Well, you may remember in that earlier episode where I was catching the mullet on bread, and I'll put the link to that up here and also down below, it took about 20 minutes for me to burley them up. Well, they've arrived in about 2 minutes today. It's a bit later in the year, the water's warmer, and I think they're a lot more active. I've already seen some good boils here. I hope they're mullet. They could be brim. We'll find out. And when I say I hope they're mullet and not brim, if they're brim, they're likely to be little ones, but you never know. I'll get a bit more burley in, and then I'll put my flies out and see what happens. Definitely a few swirls and boils back there. I'm drying a few bits of bread up here on my polling platform so that I can make crumbs out of them and float it on the surface. It's quite fresh bread, this. I didn't have any stale bread left in my freezer, so I had to actually go and buy a couple of loaves of bread. Still fairly cheap for a burley sauce. All right, I reckon I might put a fly out there and see what happens. I won't need to cast very far by the looks of things. That was a good splash. There's a couple back there, whatever they are. Now they may have a crack at that floating bread fly, but the hook could be a little bit large. But I'm also going to use it as a bite indicator, because if they grab the sinking bread fly underneath, it should pull that one down. A few people said when they watched that earlier one that I could hang the bread in the water in a bag, and that's absolutely true. But what tends to happen then is that the bread gets quite soaked and it sinks more than floating, and attracts a lot of little pickers, a lot of little brim and stuff. So I actually prefer to keep as much of the bread as possible up on the surface when I'm targeting mullet and garfish. I made an episode as well about catching garfish using bread burley and bread baits. Oh, that indicator went down then. And I'll put the link to that up here as well. That was definitely a take, I reckon. That floating bread fly definitely disappeared under the surface. They're not feeding ravenously yet, that's for sure. Oh, there's a couple in close. I'll try a little short cast where I just saw a good swirl. Oh yes, that was a fish. I felt its weight. It definitely took the submerged fly. Oh, that's a good sign. There's a few more back there now. I'd say some of them are definitely mullet, some might be brim. By throwing a bit of bread back up this way, I can give myself a longer drift with it. Tide's going that way. That was a good swell. Plonk one back where he was. Ooh, they're not bad fish. I wonder if I should pull the fly up into where they are. Oh, felt that. I was throwing a bit of bread in at the time and I wasn't able to strike properly. Damn. Just as when you're dry fly fishing for trout, it's important to avoid what's called drag. And drag is when the fly is moving at a different speed, either faster or slower than the surrounding water. And the fish key in on that. Trout are really switched on about it, but even these mullet and garfish will know when that fly is not travelling at the speed it should be, just drifting with the tide. They're much less likely to eat it. So it's important that I just keep feeding out a little bit of slack and trying to keep those flies moving at the same speed as the bread burley. Some of those could be bream, I reckon. Hopefully they'll just get more and more fired up on the burley and I'll start catching a couple. I don't want to go too far back because then it's too hard to see the floating fly. Oh, I think that was a bite. It's hard to tell at that distance. Just like to get them going a little bit more energetically than they are at the moment. Got him. Oh, ooh, what have we got? That was an aggressive take. It really pulled the floating fly under. Ooh, I don't think this is a mullet. Might be. Oh, it's a decent fish. Well, on a 4-weight, little 7'6" 4-weight. Yeah, it's a mullet. Yay! I might net it. So I don't really want to lift it on this little light rod and damage the rod. Oh, it's a good mullet. Oh, lovely sand mullet. Yay, first one. I tell you what, this is a lot of fun. If you're interested in getting into fly fishing, it's not only about trout, you can catch all kinds of saltwater fish on it. Mullet are a really good place to start your fly fishing career. Look at that, it's just pinned there on that little sinking fly. Put him in the live well. All right, it's working. Oh, there's plenty here now. I might keep that net handy because I think I'm going to need it. Oh, they're going hard now. Oh, straight away. It's important to watch the floating fly closely and respond immediately if it dips beneath the surface or skids sideways. You can strike by stripping line smartly or by lifting the rod tip. Ideally, a combination of both actions is best. They're having a go at the floating fly, but it's just a bit too big for them. There's another one on the sinking fly again. This is at least as effective as the bait fishing was. Oh, another nice mullet. This is not quite as big, this one. Probably can lift this one. Oh, it'd be a good live bait size. There's many different species of mullet around the Australian coastline. These ones are sand mullet, also known as lano mullet. Some of the old timers call them lanos. I reckon they're the best eating of the mullet, and they're also very, very good bait. All right, more burley. Oh, brings out the kid in me doing this sort of stuff. Such a good way to get people into fly fishing. You could imagine how much fun kids and newcomers to the sport would have doing this. I'm having plenty of fun too. Oh, got a take straight away. They're a bit more on the job now. They're whacking that floating fly, but not getting hooked on it because that hook's a little bit too big. But I've got a little tiny hook in the sinking fly and it's just perfect. Straight away. They're really feeding hard there now. A little bit further. That's the one. Well, I think there might be a couple of garfish there too. That'd be nice. Slowly retrieving it and I'm getting follows. I really need to tie up some floating bread flies on much smaller hooks. Got him. Ooh, not a bad one. I think I might have foul hooked this one. Definitely foul hooked. Missed him on the strike and pinned him in the side. Shows you how sharp the hook is. I'm keeping them alive in my circulating live well. That way I can decide what to take home at the end of the session and what to release. Oh, I got taken straight away. Ooh, had him. Oh, actually, I think I got him. I'll wait until you see this. I hope it doesn't fall off. I want to show you. Look at that. Tiny little garfish. Wow. He'd be good bait, but I'll pop him back. He's got a broken bill. Oh, unless he's a snub-nose, but we don't get snub-nose gar down here. He's like a northern snub-nose. All right. Really should have put him out for live bait. Ooh. Gotta keep that burley going. A little bit often is the key. That'll keep them close to the boat and feeding well. Throwing in too much could take them away on the tide. Okay, get the fly back out there. What I'm doing when I shake the rod tip like that is just feeding some slack out so that the flies can drift naturally. Got him, garfish. A little bit bigger gar. Still not really, I was going to say not really eating size, he got off anyway. A lot of gar there now. Garfish often turn up in the Burley Trail with the mullet, and they don't mind a bread fly either. Very hard to hook though. Got him. Gary. Almost eating size. Oh, yeah. Oh! And he's on the floating bread fly, the dry fly, with the fairly big hook. That's good. At the very least, he'll be great bait for something. Time to crack that second loaf of bread. Got him. That feels more like a mullet. Teaches you so much about handling fish on light tippets and light rods and small hooks too. Doing this, oh, I probably shouldn't have lifted him. On the subsurface fly again. They've suddenly gone a little bit quiet, and sometimes that'll happen when a predatory fish comes into the area and scares the mullet and gar. They're coming back on the job now, but they went quiet there for a second. That's interesting. Might have to put a livey out. Lots of little gar there now. Definitely more garfish than mullet at the moment, but they're tiny, a lot of them. Little splinter gar. Great live baits, everything eats them. Oh, that's a good garfish. Come on, eat it. Oh, I got him. Oh, he fell off. Oh, got another one. What's this? That's got to be a mullet, surely. Yep. Oh, on the dry fly. On the floating bread fly. Starting to get a couple on that now, which is good. I think one of the things that puts people off fly fishing, apart from all the mystique that surrounds it and the tradition and everything else, and that's all wonderful, but it shouldn't really put people off having a crack at it. But I think also the expense. Anything with the word fly attached to it seems to cost twice as much as any other form of fishing tackle, and it doesn't have to be that way. And there are some companies nowadays that offer some really good lower to mid-range tackle that's perfectly adequate for this kind of fishing. I'll put a link to one of them down below and actually a discount code that you can use as a viewer of this channel and get it even cheaper than the advertised prices. It's really good gear. This is one of their rods I'm using here and one of their fly lines. Okay, let's get back into it. Oh, there's some good fish there now. Mixture of mullet and garries. Got him. Is that a big garfish? No. It'd be a good garfish if it pulled that hard. It's a mullet. Keep that bread going. Give him a big piece to chew on. Right. I put a big piece of bread out there and look at them going on it. Try a long cast. The garries quite like that slow draw, but I'm not hooking them. The mullet much prefer the dead drift. See how I've been able to dry this bread out a little bit in the sun, and now I can crumble it like this? And that's the way I really like to use it, because you've then got a whole bunch of little crumbs floating on the surface. You're not feeding the fish quite as much, you're getting them excited, and you're also using something fairly similar in size to the smaller of the flies that I've got on. Oh, got him, got him, got him. Little gar. Will he stay on? Will he stay on? Mini marlin. Oh, he's all right. Tell you what, if you had 10 or 12 of those, it'd be a nice meal. Foul hooked him again. The cloud cover's building and the nor'easterly wind is picking up. It looks like it might turn into a stormy afternoon, but I'll be long gone by then. I've nearly got enough already. Got him. Ah, oh, that was a nice gar too. Just slowly drew into that one. I think it's a small mullet. On the dry, on the floating bread fly. Even with that reasonably large hook, I'm pinning them now. When I say reasonably large, it's about a 10 or a 12, whereas the little sinking one I've got on about a 14 or a 16, which is much better for pinning these fish. There's a few in there now. That's not a bad catch. I've nearly got enough. It's been such a fun little session. I hope I've been able to show you that there's a lot more to fly fishing than catching trout. You really need to get out there and have a crack. I mean, what is fly fishing after all? It's just a form of lure fishing where the lures are too light to cast in a conventional manner. So we use a fly line to get them out there. And once you get your head around that, it's just another way to go fishing. And it's a really fun one. Going to get a few more and hopefully a feed of garfish. If you've enjoyed this and you've learnt something from it, can you please give me a like down below? And if you don't already subscribe to the channel, jump on and do so. It really helps me. The other thing you might not have realised is that you can shout me a beer or buy me a coffee to help me produce more content like this. And I'll put the link for how you can do that down below. I'm going to keep playing, but I'll catch you next time. And until then, tight lines. Ooh, that's a bigger garfish. Come on, eat it.